Hi, this is Trapper Doug, naturalist at Crawford State Park. If you've been following our YouTube videos, we have been doing a lot of postings with regard to the wildflowers, the animals, and fishing and various things around the lake. As with most of our state parks, there's another dimension to them. Here at Crawford State Park, we have a historical site as well as a museum, walk-through outdoor museum. Today, I'm going to take you on a walking tour of that museum. It's the CCC Camp, better known as the 788th Construction Company, the CCC standing for the Civilian Conservation Corps. They're the young men that built this lake, and to this day is still providing educational opportunities. The CCC camps are kind of a soft spot for me because my great uncles grew up in Northwest Arkansas, and it was always talked about. They served in the Civilian Conservation Corps, and they always talked about how it was some of the best experiences of their life, in addition to the fact that it provided them with some much needed income at that time. So let's just get ready here, and we'll start walking through and talking about the Civilian Conservation Corps here that built Crawford State Park. As with all things, there has to be a beginning. If you're going to start the tour here, just look for the bronze statue of the, which is also our park logo, of the civilian conservation worker leaning on his axe. The beginning takes place in 1932 when Franklin Delano Roosevelt won the presidency. He was concerned about fighting soil erosion and the declining timber resources that he was elected to. He got with the 73rd Congress, and in 1933 had a bill authorized to put over 3 million men to work in his New Deal program, and he called it the Civilian Conservation Corps, which was also coined the CCC. The CCC was established in 1933 and was in use up until 1942. The eligibility for the Conservation Corps, you had to be an unemployed, unmarried man, age 17 to 28 years. These were going to be manual labor jobs, in other words, very hard work, and were to develop the natural resources and rural lands owned by the federal, state, and local governments. By the end of its 9-year history, over 3 million men had been enrolled in the program. The CCC provided shelter, clothing, and food. They were paid $30 a month, which would be the equivalent of about $590 in today's money. $25 of it had to be sent to the employees' families. And this is really kind of the beauty of the New Deal. Franklin Delano Roosevelt knew that by having them send this money home to the families, he would be helping a broader base of people as far as putting food on their table, and would also that money would also move into the economy for them going out and buying food, being able to buy goods and other things that we kind of take for granted today. So let's move on around, and we'll talk a little bit more as we go. The CCC led to a greater public awareness of the outdoors and natural resources. The CCC there was even a Civilian Conservation Corps for the Native Americans at that time, who were also feeling the pressure and the hardship of an economy that was in depression. The CCC at that time, for the Native Americans, enrolled over 15,000 Native Americans doing the same work. The U.S. Army was put in charge of the CCC program. The U.S. Army Reserve officers were in charge of the camps, and even one general of noteworthiness in World War II, General Douglas MacArthur, was in charge of the program for a short while. The Army found numerous benefits in the CCC programs. They used a rank structure where the corporals and sergeants were established. They were set up along the lines of the military, which gave these young officers much needed experience as far as commanding men, assuming a mission and getting a mission done. These men, these Army Reserve officers, and these men that also served in the Conservation Corps benefited from this later when tragically in 1941 World War II broke out. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt had a vision. I think he knew at the time, with the rise of fascism in Germany and Italy and Japan, that the United States most probably would be involved in a war later down the road, and also saw an added benefit in that he could get some experienced people used to the Army system, which would cut down on the training time and provide him some much needed soldiers at the outset of World War II. As you'll see at this station, the 788th used these tools right here. This is essentially what they use: pickaxes, sledgehammers, and chisels. And here at Crawford State Park, it's all rocky. You can't drive a stake 6 inches and not hit a rock. And they literally chipped this lake out of the rock here. To put it in perspective, there's 9 surface acres. The lake depths at certain points are 19, 20 feet, over 30 feet. So this was a major undertaking, and was all done with manual labor. So we'll move on down the way here and talk a little bit further as we go. The Conservation Corps in my family was talked about a lot. It really helped our family as far as at that time, as far as not having any money. And my uncles, I can remember, all talked about how it was something good to be, that they felt good to be involved in something larger than themselves. I think that also benefited my great uncles. They all served in World War II. Luckily made it home when a lot of others didn't. So I think that that tour of duty with this Conservation Corps, the CCC, probably helped them survive when it came to them serving in World War II. These men that built the lake, you'll see a sled here. That was what they used to spread and haul the rock and the dirt and the various levels. These were just average, everyday young men, 17 to 27 years of age, that were needing jobs desperately. There was over 3 million unemployed, millions unemployed at the time. And there, at that time, if you were a young man, the prospects of being able to feed your family or get married and support a family were probably next to nil. The 788th Company was just made up of the sons of common, what would later become middle-class citizens of the United States. The CCC camps had a shop crew. They had a chow mess hall, just like the military. They had Fort Leavenworth had a boxing team. They had cooks. They had KP, which for those of you that aren't familiar with the military is peeling spuds or potatoes, as it would, and helping the cooks get food items ready to serve the hundreds of men that were involved in these companies. They had a camp glee club, and there was a lot of camaraderie. I can remember my great uncles talking about that camaraderie and how they made some of the best friends that they'd ever known serving and living with these people. They slept in barracks, probably firm sides, maybe some wall on the sides, but probably canvas tents. So they really did a lot of work, and it saved a lot of people as far as from economic ruin. So let's move on around, and we're going to go cut across here, and we're going to go to the building, the stone building that you'll see if you're going through the walking tour here of the CCC camp, and we'll bring it, dial it in a little bit more toward the local individual or people here that were part of the CCC and helped build this lake that we're enjoying right now. Again, look for the building. Go inside. Due to the COVID-19 problem right now, if there's somebody inside the building, if you would wait until they are done and come out, we would appreciate it. We don't want to get anybody sick here. Again, this was part of the water tower at the time. There would have been a water tank up above there to serve the needs. If you can see here, I'll bring it in close. That's what the camp looked like in the 30s here, and you can see the lake in the background. It was quite an undertaking, and I think really FDR had a vision and realized that probably the only entity in the United States at the time could pull this off and run these things was the U.S. military due to their organizational skills. So let's go on in the water tower here, and let's see what these young men did here in a little more detail. Okay, we're inside the water tower. There's a sign-in sheet here that if you would sign in and let us know where you're from, and we keep track of that thing. It's kind of like a sign-in book, and this is also was not only a venture with the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks and Tourism, but the Friends of Farlington Lake were also heavily involved in putting this museum together. These are some of the artwork from the men that served in the CCC camp here in Farlington, as it was known at that time. Really kind of interesting. Some of these men had some real talent. There's a larger pictorial. I can't get it all in the frame here. There's also in here, it has a little bit of the history of the area. From the Osage Indians who inhabited this area at first, through the Trail of Tears time when the Cherokee were brought into what was then the Cherokee neutral lands and moved out of Georgia during the Trail of Tears period of our history. If you'll see the water pump tank, which was probably what they would have had to wash up in at the time. It was made from old ammunition boxes. This would have been their heating at the time. A big wood burning stove. We have a mock-up of the camp where these men literally lived and slept during the time that they were employed here building the lake. We also have some artifacts from the time. These would have been jars, pod pans, and some of the trade names of various items that they would have used when they were living here. We also have some more mementos in here of cups and dishes from that time period. There's a softball. I'm sure that when they did have some days off, they probably enjoyed the America's pastime during that time and played a lot of baseball. These are some of the individuals that served during that time. Captain Lewis was the commander of the CCC Camp at the time. And there was 4 men had practically all the responsibility of the camp, from the first sergeant, the supply sergeant, mess sergeant, and company clerk. And if anybody's been in the military or a military style organization, you know that the supply sergeant and the mess sergeant and the company clerk and the first sergeant are some of the more important people to go through to get things done if you're needing them. We have here's some of the faces of the young men at the time. As you can see, they were all very young men. Some of them just probably right out of high school. Some of them may have even dropped out of high school. However, we're not advocating that young people should drop out of the high school. They should stay in. Here's a picture of the dam as it's taking shape. They did have some trucks, but again, all that you're seeing right there was all done with pickaxes, sledgehammers, and shovels. And here's a group photo of the company, the 788th Construction Company. And here's a picture of some of them as they're digging down to form the lake. And as you can see, shovels in hand, shirts off. It's hot, it's dirty, but it was work that they were glad to get. It provided them some money to live on, but also provided money to their families, which in turn provided money to the local economies, which was desperately needed at that time. So we're going to move out of the water tower now, and we're going to start going down the road, and we'll bring this to a conclusion here shortly. We're going to go on down to one last station, and two more stations, and we'll talk about them briefly. Look at some of the equipment that was used by these young men that were out here building this lake that we enjoy today. So we're coming up on this next piece of equipment. As you can see, it's a large piece of equipment. It's a road grader from the 30s. This could have been drawn by a truck, but most likely it was pulled by mules. As you can see, it's quite a piece of machinery. Wouldn't have been fun sitting in that seat there and working this monstrosity of metal. Would have been very hot and hard work, but they didn't mind it. As you can see here at this kiosk, you can see that grader in action, and that man is standing up on it back in this area, and that's what he would have did most of the day. They did have some bulldozers, there were some steam shovels, but still it took a man's back and muscle to dig this lake and get it to where it is today. So let's move on down to one last station here in our tour, and another piece of equipment. If you would have been here in the 30s, you would have saw a lot of mules, maybe even some draft horses, probably mostly mules. Most of the rock and what dirt they had to bring dirt in from elsewhere to make the dam, was brought in by horses and mules, mainly mules, as you can see in this picture here. And they used what was called a slip bucket. Essentially, they'd hook these buckets up behind the team of mules, and then they'd give them the haw or the G. I can remember my great uncles using those mules back when I was a kid, and those would have been used to scoop up material and deposit it in a haul truck or maybe even a wagon to be hauled elsewhere. So again, very hard work. There was also the aspect that they had to take care of their animals at the end of the day. Okay, and we're back. They would have had to take care of the mule, and if you're in the military, you know that you take care of your vehicle, or at that time animal, your gear, and then your person. So again, they would have had quite a bit of work involved with using this type of equipment. So again, We hope that if you come out to the park that you enjoy all the critters, that you enjoy the water, the fishing, the nature hiking. But take time to come through this memorial to these CC workers and these young men that provided this sort of recreation that what 80 years almost or more down the road that we're still enjoying. So here's the emblem of the seal of the CCC camp at that time. And with that, I'll conclude the tour, and thanks for following me along, putting up with my amateur camera work. And again, come on out to Crawford State Park. There's lots to do and see out here.